All right, we are live again. This intro part is always the worst. I thought about actually like just turning on some music and like vibing out by myself until Abby gets here. So I'm gonna wait for her to hop on before I even introduce her. She's already here. She's on it, man. Amazing. Let me get her in here. View request. Go. Oh, Kara's here too. This is so exciting. Okay, did I not go live? Oh, there we go. Hi! How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so excited that we're doing this together.
Doing this. We are. Yes, we are.
I'm stoked. Okay, so I have a little ditty of a little introduction because I need to introduce you and talk about you and how great you are, and I'm so happy and excited that you're doing this with me. So you have breastfed 3 children, and now this is your third, and you're exclusively pumping. And I reached out to you because it was breastfeeding week, and I was like, okay, so this week is breastfeeding week, so I'll talk to you next week so we can do exclusive pumping. And you were so nice and kind, and we're just like, actually, Shayla, exclusive breastfeeders are or exclusive pumpers are breastfeeders. And I was like, thank you. Like, thank you for being so kind and just telling me that. So I was like, all right, well, then let's do it Friday. So, I wrote, you also seem to be the kind of person who does the research because I feel like yes, that's your personality. So I was just stoked that you were willing to come on here, and you're the co-host of Herself Podcast, which is where I initially connected with you. And then you, on your own account, are just so inviting and so welcoming and so honest. And I love it. So thank you. Um, yeah, let's get into it. I want to hear all about you've done it. You've had 3 babies and you've had 3 totally different experiences.
3 totally different experiences. And I have read, like you said, I did all the research. So I have 7 breastfeeding books, you guys. I'm not even joking. I have 7 breastfeeding books that I read pretty much cover to cover. I mean, sometimes it was just the highlighted areas, but before first, I wanted all the information. So
What?
did all the information. And then when she latched in the first second of the first time trying and it wasn't an issue, I'm like, is it because I was amazing and did all the research? Or,
Oh, that was easy.
oh my gosh, the 30 hours I put into reading really helped with the content. But our challenge wasn't the initial breastfeeding, which that can be such a big challenge. So many of my friends went through like latch issues, tongue tie issues. I mean, I had all those issues with our other kids, but our issue was I traveled for my job. So I traveled for my job, which meant at week 13, I took my first overnight trip and really didn't look back. So for all of those days, all of those trips, I had to learn how to pump while away for many, many days on end, and how to travel with breast milk on an airplane, which that could be alive in itself, with figuring out how to bring it back, making sure that it stays the right temperature. And then at around 9 months, she bit me and I overreacted. And I don't know if you ever had that, but
Yeah.
I screamed, pulled on, nurse striked for 22 days. And I'm like, at that point, I was getting into the groove with nursing. I wasn't pumping a whole lot. And so that was really hard. So for 21 days, I was an exclusive pumper with my first. And I always forget that little part of our story, but it was a really, really hard part of our story.
And then you just kept going for it. And like after 21 days, I'd be like, oh, she's not going to do it anymore.
Well, and I went to a lactation consultant. I went to the pediatrician, and our pediatrician gave me very unhelpful advice. She goes, well, your breastfeeding journey is done. And I broke down crying because I wasn't ready to be done. But a really, really great lactation consultant was like, hey, Abby, this sounds weird, but put yogurt on your nipples and put avocado on your nipples because those are her 2 favorite foods.
What?
Walk around the house topless and and I'm like, so is this like for my baby or is this for my husband? I'm kind of getting confused here. And no joke, after, I mean, a very uncomfortable couple of days where I was walking around topless with freaking guacamole, and she took the bait. She took the bait. We were able to nurse for until like 14 months.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Oh.
Can you give like a quick couple of tips for flying on an airplane?
Yeah, very, very quick. If you know that your milk is going to stay safe, keep it with you. So don't pack it in your like stowaway bag. I don't even know what those are called. I always
What do you mean stay safe?
There you go. Yeah. Just make like stay safe as in like, will it be able to be with you at all times? So, because that way you can put ice in there. So you can bring actual ice packs with you. So I just fill up at like the Burger King or the Taco Bell that's right there, bring a ton of Ziploc bags, throw the ice in there.
Ooh.
I also like to freeze as much as possible so that they can defrost a little bit. And then I use that for like the first milk when baby comes back that week for daycare. The mason jar method. So I would pour as much as possible if it was just a 1-day trip into a mason jar. So it's just one container, because they can open, if it's a liquid, you guys, they can open every single one of your precious bags and do this little test over it. And I don't want some 23-year-old guy with a dirty hands and gloves stuff to be handling my baby's lunch. So because of that, you can just put it all in a mason jar. They open it one time, wave the strip over it, and head on your way. But
perfect.
Those are pretty good ones right there. But then with Micah, our only big issue was he was an allergy baby. So if there's any allergy mamas on here, holy moly, it's a lot of work. Not only for your kid, but if you're breastfeeding, for you, because he was allergic to egg and dairy, which I live in Wisconsin. Those are my two
staples.
I got really skinny and really mean. My husband always says, he's like, you're the skinniest and the meanest you've ever been, because I just didn't know what to do and what to fill up with that. But once we figured it out, we were able to breastfeed for about 14 months as well.
Oh, nice. And did you figure it out by just elimination, or did he have to get some tests?
He did all the tests. He did all the tests. And he was like rash breakout like crazy. We thought it was fabric softener, which we don't even really use, but grandma uses it. We thought it was his cloth diapers and he was reacting to something there. And it ended up just being, I had to cut everything out of my diet.
Oh man, that's tough. All right. So we have one flying with milk, one allergy, and now the third.
Our third baby. So Owen is 11 months old, almost 12 months old. And I know, I can't believe these pandemic babies of ours, Shayla, like they were created, grew, and then were born, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, you're a year old? Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to our lives.
Right. And some people have not even met you because it's been on lockdown, right? This is crazy.
Yeah. So we have a 1-year-old, and he was born with Down syndrome. And so what I didn't know about Down syndrome is that they have, a lot of times people with Down syndrome have low muscle tone, which is really cute because his tongue's always hanging out. He's always making this silly face, but it also makes it really difficult for him to nurse, to actually. We, on day one, I'm like, I'm an experienced breastfeeder. I read all the stuff again that I possibly could.
My third time.
Of course, third time the charm, just different books this time. And he latched right away. All the doctors were like, this is amazing. He was drinking. I'm like, is this because I'm amazing? Again, come on, give me the kudos, guys. They're amazing. I'm like, of course. But we did that for like 9 days. And in my soul, I felt like something was wrong. I felt something was wrong. And I'm like, I don't think he's eating. And the doctor, because you go in at like 2 days, you go in, and with Down syndrome, you go in a lot more. And they're like, no, he's doing great. Like, we're watching you. He's doing great. Well, he wasn't transferring milk. So he was fake, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but he's a really good actor. He was latching, he would drink, and he would even like pretend to swallow, but he wasn't actually transferring milk. Didn't know it was a thing until I had a baby that did it. So after
But then didn't your boobs feel the same?
Thing, my supply dropped. So because of all of that, I was, so it dropped. And then it felt like I was like filling out, but he was drinking like the teeniest, tiniest little bit, like 1 ounce of feeding. He didn't gain weight. I had that really scary failure to thrive diagnosis, which we need to change that word, because that is just a scary word, a scary phrase completely. And at that point, they're like, well, you can do formula or you can start pumping. And I'm like, okay, let's start with pumping because I know how to do that. And then we'll bring in formula too. And it's humbling when you don't have a supply. So anybody who is a low producer, like that is, my heart goes out to you, because I overproduce slightly with my other kids, but filling this much, I mean, it was like half an ounce on each side after 35 minutes of pumping every 2 hours. Like, it was a very humbling experience. I still have my alarm set for like 1 a.m., 4 a.m., 7 a.m., all around the clock for 2 to 3 hours. They're not set, sorry. They're still in my phone. And I
was like, you're still doing that?
No. I like keep them there just as a reminder of how far we've come and like how much work we put into this little journey. And now we're almost 12 months in. I'm down to 4 pumps a day, 30 minutes each. Works great for him, works great for me. we figured out something that works for all of us.
So did your supply eventually increase?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, good.
And baby, that like really, I mean, parts of it is just your body sometimes doesn't produce, and like that is an actual thing, but I just kept at it. Did the lactation bites. You can literally Google booby bites. I've done all those recipes. I still eat the booby bites. There's tea, there's all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but whatever you can do, just get your mind in the right place. I think that's honestly starting points.
Oh my gosh. Man, you've done it all then. So this is perfect.
All with this section. I'm like very under-researched in many parts of my life, but if you want to talk something, girl, I got you.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And then of course I have questions.
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting conversation because she never took a bottle, so I never had to pump. I used the Haka and that was about it. And I've got 2 experiences with the pump. One, I did it with my sister 4 years ago before I had a child. I was like, that's fun. Let me try the pump. And I did it. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. And she's like, no, Shayla, no. I was like, yeah. Okay. So,
I love that.
It's different when you don't have a baby.
Aren't even pregnant, aren't even like thinking about babies. Like that's what's funny about your first breast pump experience. Let's just hook up and try it. Sure, why not?
What does this feel like? And then the other one was like my first time away from Aaliyah, and I was like, I don't need a pump. Luckily, someone else at the bachelorette party had a pump. So she's whipping it out in the limo, and she's like, it's not weird. Do you need to use these? And I was like, I think I do actually. Like, we did a pump off to see who could do more in 5 minutes. And it was very bachelorette-y. But anyway, so that's the extent of my pumping experience. So I feel like this is good because my questions are very much probably like a pregnant woman who's just like, pumping what? So the first question is, how do you choose a pump? What kind of pumps are there? Are there different phalange sizes? Like, how do you know what you need? Insurance gives you a free one?
Been doing weird stuff this entire time. So for the podcast, but we're being extra weird on this. Yeah, there are a lot of pumps. And like the number one thing I say is check with your insurance first, because your insurance, like it should provide some type of breast pump. So if you can get something for free, I'm like, yeah, get something for free. Sometimes they give you options, sometimes they don't. So with my company, they literally said, we'll pay for any breast pump as long as you get your ass back in the seat. Like you guys are working women, you do all the things, like we'll pay for whatever breast pump. So I got to choose literally whatever pump I wanted. So because of that, I've tried like 7 different pumps. So just as many as I've had with like breastfeeding books, I've tried all the different pumps because sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And it depends on your lifestyle. So the Spectra, there's 2 different kinds. There's a pink one and a blue one. The blue one doesn't have to be hooked up into the wall. So it's great because you don't have to like actually be stationed. It's a really powerful pump. It's super gentle on your nipples, but it's huge. So I used this one with Micah when I was traveling like crazy, and it took up half my carry-on bag between like the flanges and the pump parts and the actual pump. It's huge. So it's great if you're going to be sitting down, pumping in the same place. Even if you're going into work, it takes up half of your pump bag. So it's a very, very large but gentle pump. The Medela Freestyle is the one that I'm using now. It's my go-to for exclusively pumping. It's really, really great and compact, but it's not very gentle. So it was a learning curve to be like, okay, this is a little bit crazy suction on the nips, but I'm good at this point, I think. And it definitely doesn't have the same type of impact, but it's super small. The battery lasts like all day if you wanted to pump all day, and that's been my go-to for this one. There's also like the Willow and the LV. Those are like the most compact. They fit into your bra actually. You can walk the dog with it. You can go to the store with it. You can wash the dishes with it. Like that's how they share or how they promote it. But you can't bend over at all. You can't at all. So I was like, I'm rocking this. I had the LV, and first of all, there's a learning curve. So like you have to like figure out exactly how to put it on. I never got it figured out. It only holds 4 or 5 ounces. And the reason I say only is that if you're overproducing at all, or if you're like pumping in the morning after a long stretch, you're gonna have to change out the bottles in between. And that's just really annoying. So like you're feeding baby on one side and want to pump on the other just a little bit. Or if you really want hands-free, that's the way to go. And then the Haka, like you use the Haka, right?
Yeah.
And that one's great. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, well, with the Willow and the LV, I've heard that they're not very strong, that they don't.
I literally
Okay.
LV like 5 times, and every single time I had like all the expectations in the world of what I could do that I was now that I was and every single time I was let down with expectations. The bad
Let down.
let
That's
down.
great.
Oh,
Funny.
overfloweth. I mean, just come on, like let this funniness overfloweth into this conversation. But I wanted it to work. Just it didn't work. Maybe because I've been using the freestyle for so long, and my nipples were so used to like a really hard tug, but it didn't work.
I've heard that about that because I feel like that's like a godsend. You're like, oh my gosh, I can just put it in my bra. I can go do whatever I want. But I've heard that it's not as great, yeah, as it's supposed to be, I guess. Yeah, and then with the you're saying Haka, I say Haka, whatever. What tomato with that one.
Tomato, big bag, right?
Yes, exactly. It's just a suction and it goes on, but that gave me an oversupply because I was nursing her because with the live that I did on Wednesday, she's like, if you're doing any pumping with baby, that's telling your body, yo, we got twins here. We got a feeder on this side and a feeder on this side. And so I was like just leaking always. And I was like, am I always going to have to wear these little pads in my bra? And people were like, what? So I eventually had to like manage that oversupply, but it's incredible in the first bit just to get a ton of milk. So I had a freezer full of milk using only that. And that I had to donate because my daughter wouldn't take a bottle, which was great. I was like, this is amazing. I donated it to a newborn. So they got like the colostrum milk all the way to, I was like, this could not be better. I'm so happy.
And yes, if you're going back, it's great because you can have that extra supply. If you just want to pump off a little bit for like a date night, for instance, it's great to have that, like just to get ahead just a tiny little bit. And the Haka is really nice because if you get clogged ducts, which in the exclusively pump clogs happen, it happens to me all the time because a pump isn't as good as baby's mouth. So you can use the Haka, fill it with Epsom salt, warm water, massage like crazy, put it on, add a little bit of suction, and it helps pull up the clog. So it's a really great way. I also have a lot of success with just having my husband pull up the clog, but some people are a little bit like, I'm not going to go there. Let's try that. I'm like, you guys, mouth is obviously more, whatever part of it, your mouth is obviously more powerful than your baby or this Haka. So you're doing all this work. Let them get involved.
That is so good. There's the best secret you can get from all of this. You got a partner? Get them on that clog duct.
Get them on there. They got to do some work in this, right? Like you're feeding your baby. You're keeping this baby alive alone or with the help of some formula and food. And yeah, let them help out with that. But whatever it is, like make sure that you have extra sets of supplies of pump parts. Like that's a huge one, especially if you're pumping often, making sure the flange size actually fits your nipples. Literally Google it. You'll get all these YouTube videos that pop up. You'll see more nipples than you ever cared to know about or learn about, but at least you'll get exactly what you need. Because I was using a 24, for instance, because I'm like, I'm average. I'm an average size. And after I did that almost completely with Lucy. So for our first, and then when I went in, because I was exclusively pumping for 21 days, she's like, yeah, you definitely need a 27. I'm like, what? I've been doing this for 9 months. So I didn't make that mistake with the other ones and made a ton more milk right away because I had a different flange size. So I'm like,
what?
So simple.
So how do you know what size you need? You're saying find it on YouTube?
Yeah, find it on YouTube. A lactation consultant could do it better, but it's like the diameter of your nipple, how it actually looks inside the flange, turn the pump on, see what it looks like. I mean, there's a little bit of an equation. It takes a little bit to learn, but 30 minutes of learning can save months and months and months of inefficient pumping, not getting enough milk, lower supply, all that.
No.
Yeah.
Have you ever used the manual pump where there's like the...
That one doesn't work great for me. I think because I want things to be efficient. I want them to be done. I'm like
hands-free.
Oh, hands-free. Like I'm not going to do 20 minutes on this side and 20 minutes on this side, but that one's really nice. I do keep one of those in my car. It's 5 years old at this point, but just in case my pump dies or in case like I forget a flange or something, because that all happens. Like,
an emergency pump.
Oh, like the worst thing is to be away from your baby and to not be able to express milk from your boobs and you're uncomfortable and anxiety comes in. So I do have one of those in my glove box. I just don't use it all the time.
Right. So when you're when you're breastfeeding, you know when your baby's coming, it's like, okay, they're hungry, they need to be fed. When you're pumping, are you just on a schedule, or do you pump when they eat, or like, how do you know when to pump, or do you downsize as they get older, or what's that kind of process like?
I think that's what works well for you. Like the beauty of pumping in any way is you're not on someone else's schedule. Like you're on your own schedule. So a baby, it's like, oh, this is great. The bonding is great. And being with your baby is great. And I'm going to say, you know what's also great? Being able to like leave for a girls' night, bring your pump with, and not have to tell your husband husband or wife when you get back of, hey, make sure the baby's not fed because I'm coming back at this time, blah, blah, blah. Like that's what's really, really great about it. So at the beginning, they will give you a little bit of a schedule of 2 to 3 hours. That's what we were on for a while until he started gaining weight. But now we cut the overnight feed as soon as possible. Like as soon as we possibly could, we cut that one. Luckily, our kiddo, Owen, is a great sleeper. So he slept through the night before my boobs slept through the night. And we are on just, 4 times a day now. We've been doing that for like probably 5 months. Or sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Since 5 months.
That is, and I like that you are bringing up like the positives of it, because I feel like it's hard. It's really hard work. And just like all things in motherhood, you can get really stuck in like the negative and the complaining and the whatever. Just like breastfeeding, I do the same thing. I'm like, yo, I am on her schedule and I can't, it's a leash. And so you're like, it's kind of nice that I have my own schedule. It's kind of nice that other people get to help with this bottle. And what I found with weaning was that I love the snuggles that she's not nursing, because, and I talked about this on the podcast too. It's kind of like she's snuggling me instead of just like snuggling my boob. I'm like, okay, you like me for me. This is great. And so it was a different sort of bond.
It is. So talking about on the HEYSHAYLA podcast, I think you were episode 83. And you're talking about how like you are a boob, like you are a product, like you are literally seen as a way to stay alive when it's at points. So when you can take that part away and be like, I mean, because my time with Owen right now is like, that's our time. Like I am not something that he needs to have. I'm something he gets to have and that we get to enjoy. Mm-hmm. So there are so many benefits to it. When you're deep in the trenches, it's hard to see all of those, but having partner help, having those, when we leave for the weekend, it's way easier because I already know how to pump. It's not like you're trying to do a couple different things. There's just so many benefits too.
So then when you took out that night feeding, did you just slowly expand the time between feedings, or were you just like cold turkey, or how did you take out the night feeding?
Yeah, I know some women do the cold turkey, but that's just not, I'm like, not with this thing. So I would just stay up as late as possible. So I'd pump right before bed. Maybe it was like 10 o'clock or 10:30, and then would go like set an alarm and be like, hey, Abby, you can make it this long. You can make it this long. And then, maybe it was 1 o'clock and then 3 o'clock and then 5 o'clock. And then that would be the first thing that I would do in the morning. And then it gets to the point where you just train your body. Like you train your body to when you need to pump and when it needs to express that breast milk. And the morning pump session is glorious because you usually a little bit more and it's very, very satisfying. Pretty darn uncomfortable if you let it go for too long.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what I learned at the bachelorette party. I was like, okay, I guess I do need to do this. Let's see. Okay, so we have the difference. Well, anybody who's pumping knows that you have to clean 1,000 bajillion little itty bitty teeny weeny parts. And I feel like it's kind of a secret that you don't have to do it every single time, right? Or is that true?
Here's the deal. So the CDC will say you have to clean your pump parts every single time. But 100% of really, really busy mamas who still love their babies, I shouldn't say 100%, there's always the outlier, but so many moms do this little hack where you throw the pump parts into the fridge in between sessions, and our babies are just fine. I've done this for 5.5 years, you guys, with all 3 of my babies, and they are very, very, very healthy individuals. So you don't rinse your pump parts. You don't dry them off. You literally throw them into a Ziploc bag, or if you're crunchy, like Shay and I, throw them into, I mean, literally like a wet dry bag, the same type of bag that you would use for cloth diapers. Throw it in there, throw it into the fridge, and you can use them all day then. So afterwards, it just makes it a ton easier.
Right. And why the fridge?
So in the fridge, it's kind of like milk. Like you wouldn't leave milk on the counter all day. So it just makes it so that the bacteria doesn't grow. It kind of holds it as is. And then at the end of the day, I know some people will like be hand washing or like crazy sanitizing techniques. Throw it on the top rack of the dishwasher, throw the sanitize button on, and you're good to go. There's also like a really easy, it's like $10. I put it on my Amazon storefront, but this little bottle part box that you put into your dishwasher, you throw all the little tiny pump parts in there and it washes it for you. So if you are a person that's like, no, I definitely need my parts washed by hand, make your partner do it. Like you are doing 2 hours of work during the day, your partner can spend 15 minutes washing the pump parts at the end of the day.
That's not a good way to distribute the load.
Well, one time, like, yeah, but you can pump while doing emails, Abby. So it's not like you're spending more time. And he's like so supportive, but on like day 90 of washing parts by hand, because with our first, everything was washed by hand, of course. I was like, yeah, but you breathe while doing emails. So me keeping my child alive while doing, I think that's a good trade-off here.
I love it. That's so funny. Something else, I have these random things that I know, so I'm just gonna ask you about them. So I've also heard that you said get multiple pump parts, but I've heard like keep pump parts at the office and then keep a second pair at home. So you just have to move the machine.
Just move the machine. Yep. And then you can wash them at the office and wash them at home. And then you don't have to worry about packing up every single day or forgetting a pump part. Hence having the random my car. So having the parts and even in my pump bag, I have an extra membrane because membranes are teeny, teeny, tiny and they're so easy to forget, but your entire contraption won't work unless you have that dang tiny little piece. And I forgot that on a trip one time and was like bawling because I was on a trip. I like run to Target. I was on an airplane and then right to a meeting and then right to a dinner deal. So I had a friend who was in Texas literally meet me at the restaurant in order to, I'd never met her in real life. She's an Instagram friend, you guys. And she met me at the restaurant in order to give me a tiny little part. And I'm like, I'll mail it back, I promise. She's like, Abby, it's $3 and you definitely need this right now. Definitely need this.
Oh my gosh. I think that's like the best part about, because I've always been like a dude chick where I'm like, I don't really get along with women very well. I just like hang out with the guys more like my whole life. And now I'm realizing like women need women. And it took motherhood and like that for me to understand that we all understand each other very differently and that it's just a completely different relationship. But yeah, like that example, they're like, I feel you so hard on this. Let me bring you that $3 part so that you can get rid of that milk.
At that point, I had like 50 followers on Instagram and I posted like in tears, like, I can't believe this. I'm at the end of my breastfeeding journey, but I'll be on this trip for a total of 30 hours and I don't have this pump part. Like I can't even get to Target because I don't have a car and I'm with all these workers. And she literally like DM'd me and she's like, I coming to the restaurant. Where are you? And I'm like, I jumped in the bathroom, like bawling the entire time. I'm like, you are so nice.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
For you from 5 years ago. Thank you.
I saw on one of your Instagram stories where you were like, oh, check out this fanny pack thing that you can use to be hands-free. And I was like, you are a genius.
Oh my gosh, I actually have
Please.
Look at this. I didn't even plan to do this, but okay.
Show and tell.
I totally plan to do this. Medela Freestyle fits perfectly into this, like a $25 fanny pack that you can walk around with it. And you might be like, oh, that's nice, Abby. You have a teeny tiny Medela Freestyle. Great for you. I have a Spectra. It doesn't work. Idaho Jones is a company. I absolutely love them. I have their diaper bags. I have all their stuff. They just made a fanny pack for Spectra. So you can walk around.
Why wouldn't you?
I mean, it's like you look ridiculous. But the fact that you can be hands-free walking around with a Spectra, like you don't even need the Willow or the LV. And I'm sorry if like Willow or LV reps are on this call right now because, sorry guys, the Spectra and the Freestyle definitely worked a lot better especially for exclusively pumping. And now you can actually be hands-free. So,
oh my gosh,
a really good pump bra. I recommend the Simple Wishes pump bra. It's like $30 on Amazon. I've used the exact same one for 3 years, so 5.5 years going strong, still works. And then also just making sure to like befriend things. Like if you're thinking about multitasking, befriend the car pumps. Like when you're in a car, you can't do a whole lot else besides drive. And so just strap the flanges to your body. I've even gotten as good as I will put them on my body before I leave. And then 30 minutes before I get to my destination, I just literally hit start. so that
Oh,
my destination, I don't have to worry about
1:30
off in between, like while I'm driving, like that's not safe. I don't want to spill milk anywhere. So it just works. And then you get there, you're like, I just did two things. I drove here and made my kid lunch.
oh
I'm
my gosh, that's amazing. Somebody just asked what the name of the bra pump is.
name of the bra,
The pump bra. Yeah.
Simple Wishes. And I can make sure I can send you over the Amazon list of all these things too, because yeah, there's just so many little things and they're not expensive because I'm cheap. I will only buy the things that are like functional and make a ton of sense. And all of these things, they can just make your life so much easier. So I'd rather spend $30 on a bra that will last all of your babies than have to worry about like holding flanges to your body. Can't do emails, can't play on your phone, can't do anything.
Right. Can't drive.
You can't drive, you can't do anything when you're doing that.
Let's see. We talked about pump storage in the fridge, but what are your tips? There were actually a lot of questions about milk storage and then freezer storage and then thawing out and all of that. How much to put in? That's a lot of information, but give us the rundown.
A lot, and you'll figure out what works well for you. What worked well for us is I started freezing right away in 5, 6, and 7 ounce bags. And don't at me that you can only fill it to 6 ounces. Okay, I'm a rule follower of some things. I read all the baby books, you guys, but I have filled these things to 7 ounces and they are just fine. And the reason I do 5, 6, and 7 ounces is because that's how much milk my babies drink when they go to daycare. So they'll drink 5-ounce bottles at first, then they'll drink 6 ounces, and they'll drink 7 ounces. So daycare literally just has to defrost the one bag, or grandma or babysitter just has to defrost the one bag. They don't have to do any measuring. And then you know immediately, like, this is one meal, this is one meal, this is one meal. It makes it easier for you. You're not wasting milk that way, because the worst thing is to defrost milk and then have to throw it away. Like, that's no ounces should ever be thrown away.
No ounces lost in the process of the deep thaw. Well, so, I was told to do it even smaller, like 2 to 4 ounces.
You can if you're not worried about storage bags. So you can do it that way, but then a ton of storage bags. So because I overproduced at the beginning, it was just like, okay, I don't want to waste a whole bunch of storage bags and all that kind of stuff. But freezing flat also helps with storage. So you can literally lay it on a cookie sheet, get out all the air bubbles, put the whole cookie sheet right into your deep freezer, and then they all store flat. You can also Google milk brick. And a milk brick is a way to put your milk into a gallon-sized bag so that they fit into like teeny tiny little squares. And that makes it so easy, especially if you like have a freezer stash going, to make sure that it's not taking up a ton of space.
Right.
Yeah, but during the week, because some people will bring fresh milk to daycare every day. That's what we did. And then I would just store the extra. And then would use those for date nights or for like long weekends away. But we just pumped into a mason jar and then would bring that 32-ounce mason jar to daycare every other day. And he would just drink out of that.
Perfect. And what about, because when I was storing milk there, I read not to mix like fresh pumped and fridge milk.
Yep. And there's definitely some science to that. I know that a lot of people will mix milk and their babies are just fine. I felt comfortable sometimes doing that, but usually I would just put the milk into a bottle, like pump into the milk or pump into the bottles, put those bottles in the fridge. Once they were cool, pour into the mason jar. Okay. Use those exact same bottles, the exact same flanges for the next pump. So at the end of the day, I'm literally only washing 2 bottles, 2 flanges, 2 sets of everything, because it all goes into the mason jar after it's been cooled in the fridge.
Genius. So good.
It just works.
Yeah. Okay. So laying it flat. And then I've heard that laying it flat also helps it to de-thaw faster as well, because it's all kind of thin. So
Right. And then some milk isn't getting super hot, or other stuff has like frozen chunks in it. So it works better for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Always pulling your oldest milk first. So I think that the rules are in the deep freezer for 6 to 12 months. So just pulling your oldest milk first so that you can make sure that you're using that stuff before it goes bad. But I know that many people, even big companies, will use milk after those 12 months if it's been put in a deep freezer for that long.
Did you ever donate any of your milk?
Did. And I donated mostly to friends. So I think like 12 babies were fed with Lucy's milk, not like fully fed, but mean, I had friends that were like literally going on a girls' weekend, and they're like, I'm gone for 3 days. I need 90 ounces of milk. I don't have 90 ounces. And I'm like, well, I have some to help you out with.
Oh.
And then with Micah, because he was allergic to milk, and I had this awesome freezer stash from the glory days of pumping, of the oversupply in the early weeks, I was able to donate a lot of that milk to friends too.
Oh, so good. I found, because I wanted to donate mine, obviously, because I couldn't give it to her. And so I was told to go to Human Milk for Human Babies and then the state or city that you're in. And then I just connected with somebody. They were in the NICU, and it was like, okay, cool, done. But I feel like that's a great resource if you're trying to donate or if you're looking for some milk.
Yes. And I can tell you a resource that's not good. Don't go to Craigslist and say, I have breast milk. I was on a trip to Knoxville. I remember it very specifically because I was on a trip to Knoxville. I had all this milk. I had 3 days of milk. And I'm like, you know what? I would love to bring this back home with me, but I know that someone here is going to love this milk, and I'm going to make their day, and all the flight stuff, I won't have to worry about it. I'm going to do a really good thing and give this milk to somebody. So I put it on Craigslist, and I was like, hey, I have milk, meet me at the Hilton. And I got dozens of messages from men who were bodybuilders or whatever they were, trying to get the perfect protein to carb ratio with my breast milk. I was getting offered $5 an ounce. I was getting all these creepy requests. I mean, at that point, I'm like, wow. Took down the post. So no, please don't do that.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, I've heard of that too. And I've been like, because Seth has, well, you got milk ducts taken out from your husband, but Seth is like, I will not try your milk. I was like, come on, just taste it. It's fun. He's like, no way. Same thing. I tried my sister's. I was like, oh, we'll just give it a little taste. Did you have somebody's asking this, any lipase? It's lipase?
I never know what it's called. I always just read it. So that's what it tastes soapy. So after you freeze it, it tastes soapy, and you don't know until after it's defrosted. So that's the issue, is that you can have this great freezer stash, and then all of a sudden the lipase test comes in. You're like, wait, my baby can't drink this milk. There are some things you can do with like boiling the milk, like boiling it in a bag before you put it in. Google it, because there's actually things you can do. You can add vanilla to it, I think. I think it's vanilla to it. Make the soapiness kind of go away so that baby will drink it. You can mix it with freshly pumped milk to have the lipase or soapy test go away. So if you have lipase, and we're probably saying this wrong right now, and someone's like, come on, dummies. But if you have that soapy, there are things you can do to help with it. So do not toss it. Do not milk bath it. Try the things first, because some babies even drink it. One of my friends, Kaylee, her baby just like drank her lipase milk. Just like fine. Great. Yeah. I'm like, hey.
Great. Hey. Yep. Okay, so the last question is, obviously you are a great resource, but where can somebody look for more information? Does a lactation consultant help you with pumping? Okay.
Yes, definitely. So if you have access to a lactation consultant, it also usually goes through insurance. So that's really nice, because you can get the help that you need. And at that point, they can, if your goal is to nurse, then they can help you with nursing and also with pumping. They can get you set up with the right flange size. They can figure out which pump setting you need to be on. So sometimes with different pumps, you're not using the right settings. So you're not getting the output that you actually can make because your pump settings are off. So lactation consultant is always the first one that I say, especially one that can be hands-on or through Zoom to work with you. Kelly Mom is also a really great resource. She has all the information, or they have all the information on like storage tips, how long it can be in the refrigerator, how long it can be in the deep freezer, how long it can be just like out in the open. And then if you do have a baby with Down syndrome, like we have, you can go to Julia's Way, or any baby with low tone, actually. You can go to Julia's Way, and they are specific to feeding babies with low tone. So a great resource there.
And are these Instagram accounts or these websites?
They all are on Instagram, and they're all websites. Perfect. Yeah. Well,
amazing.
Yeah, the lactation consultants might be on Instagram, but they probably, that one's going to be the website.
How do you find, because for my lactation consultant, they were at the hospital, and my pediatrician was a lactation consultant. Is that typical, or I don't even know how else you would find a lactation consultant?
Yeah, usually they have, usually they do have them through the hospital or at a surrounding hospital within your area. I mean, yeah, our lactation consultant, when I did have an oversupply, even with Owen, after I worked myself up, he still wasn't gaining weight. And they found out that we needed to start fortifying. And she recommended this thing called hind milk fortification. So what I did was I pumped for like 3 or 4 minutes, use that milk. I'll use that milk like when he's a year or so, like in the future, and then would just use like the really fatty stuff at the end. So he was gaining weight with my own milk just by using the stuff at the end. So I would have never even heard of or thought about doing that. But because of the oversupply issue, like it kept, oh, must be nice. You make so much milk. Well, because of that, my baby was getting squirted in the face. He couldn't get a good latch. He wasn't gaining weight because he was drinking my skim milk.
The water, yeah.
So they can be really, really great.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else that we missed, do you think?
I mean, if you're really, truly an exclusive pumper, like do the multitasking, figure out what works well for you, feed your baby while you're pumping if you can, get this partner support, like just figure out what works well for you, because it's a labor of love. It is a ton of work. Like if you do it for 3 days or 3 months or 3 years, however long you do it, way to go, because it's just so much work. And if it works well for you though, like that is best in every single way. And I know it's been said so much this week, but exclusively pumping can also be the best.
Yeah. Well, I think it's whatever's best for you and your family and your situation and your mental health and your body and all the things. I think that's something that you and like the Herself podcast and all of that are so good at, just like empowering everyone at any stage, wherever they are. So I think I agree with you completely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I feel like the tips that you gave are just like liberating, honestly. Like it's like figure out what works, and here are some really good tips. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing all of those. And then I will save this on IGTV right now, and then it'll go on YouTube, and eventually in a couple of months when my podcast launches, it'll be on there. Hopefully we can hear a babbling baby in the back.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, you want to join? First guest. Join.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
I'll talk to you soon.